Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the MattyRocks Experience and another Friday night episode of the MattyRocks Experience, the Instagram live sessions. Tonight, I am very, very excited to introduce my next guest. She is country, soul, jazz singer, songwriter, Jesse Lynn Madera. Here she comes. Jesse, how are you? Welcome.
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me tonight, and Happy New Year to you and the family.
Thank you to you too.
I just want to do this real right off the bat, but you have a great PR that works with you. Getting everything set up.
Awesome.
Communication, so hats off to your PR. I really appreciate that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Richland.
How hopefully all is well with you and the family. You guys are safe and healthy?
Everything's great. We're actually here in New Orleans in the RV.
In the RV. We'll talk about that later.
It's a real slice of life here. I'm sorry. Let me just figure out what's going on over. Stop that. We have a dog named RV, Matty.
Oh, okay.
And so she thinks it's her job to be the protector of the RV, I think.
So maybe we shouldn't say RV because then she thinks we're calling her name.
Maybe not. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
I know it's early in 2021, but have you transitioned into the new year good?
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm feeling really great about this year. I know things are not exactly the way they're far from exactly the way most of us want them to be, but I have high hopes. I tend to have high hopes in general, though.
So what have you done musically to keep yourself really in the music groove during this time that we're in, during the pandemic?
Well, I was crazy enough to go ahead and put my album out in May, and I've done some performances for that, and I did one live performance. I did a house show in Franklin, very, very safe. I mean, everybody was like spaced out and nobody got sick, and I don't know if I would do that now. I probably wouldn't do it now, but that was earlier on in the summer. And I put out a Christmas song. I did a version of Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas with a really wonderful pianist named Matt And I've been writing. I've got my next album is pretty much written, and I'm getting ready to start putting serious thought into recording that.
Absolutely. Sounds like you've been very productive and keeping busy. Jesse, if there was one thing during this entire time that you've learned about yourself that maybe you've never focused on before ever, what would you say that is?
Oh my gosh.
Because this time gives us a lot of time to think.
Yeah. I think that, well, I mean, without going into too much depth with it, I guess, I think I discovered that maybe I'm more clear about things than I'm so sorry.
RV.
RV, stop it. She wasn't doing this until 7:59, by the way.
I was worried about my kitties.
You were? How many?
I was worried about my kitties that they were going to be obnoxious, but they're sleeping right now, which I'm so happy with.
Well, I just blocked her. The problem is she's got a little doggy window, and so she can see out, and she likes to, be the century. Anyway, so I don't know. I think I got more clear about some stuff, like personal things, and realized that maybe I'd been a little too hard on myself, and that I'm stronger than I thought I was. Than I was. You know?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Jesse, if you would take Matty Rocks listeners back to the early years of your life in Parkersburg, West Virginia, and give us some
Yes.
insight to how music came into your life. And I know that you've moved around quite a bit, but this is where your roots start.
Yeah. Yes, I was born in Parkersburg, and my grandma gave us in this antique upright piano, and it was in the middle of our living room. And anytime people would come over, we would kind of just get around the piano and sing. And I think every once in a while somebody would bring a guitar over, but at least from my perspective, it seemed like the piano was just the central thing. Like my grandmother played it. My brother was taking lessons when I was little, and we've always had these sing-alongs. I don't know if every family does this, but it's just kind of like that's just what we did. I don't know. So we would all get together, and somebody would have some kind of instrument, and we'd all just be playing and singing. My grandpa and his sisters actually had a band. They were like in the backwoods of West Virginia, and they just, every single sibling played an instrument, and they'd be out there just jamming. That's just what they did.
A very musical family indeed.
Yeah, my mom is a wonderful singer. She's really fantastic. My dad now plays the harmonica. He didn't play anything, actually. He was just like, he was a real sincere lover of music my whole life. And he was the guy that if you were in the car with him and like say you were listening to like, you know, a Bonnie Raitt song or a Linda Ronstadt song or Chris Christopherson, you're just riding along, and he'd go, "Oh, did you hear that lyric? Did you hear that lyric?" And he'd stop the tape and rewind it. We'd listen over again, and we would talk about like what that certain line meant. And I think his passion for lyrics got me. I think it passed down to both my brother and I.
Great
in
story.
different ways.
Who were the musical influences early on in your life who have helped shape to make you the great singer-songwriter that you are today?
I would say, I mean, I grew up listening to Chris Christopherson and Willie Nelson. Sorry, it cut out for a second. Were you asking about my
musical influences who have helped shape and make you the great singer-songwriter you are today?
Definitely. Like I said, yeah, I grew up with like the Outlaws, the Highwaymen, and later on I really got into Joni Mitchell. I didn't hear a lot of Joni Mitchell when I was little, but my mom listened to a lot of Joan Baez, Linda Ronstadt. It was all like lots of 70s heartbreak music, because my parents divorced when I was about 3 or 4, and so I listened to a lot of like breakup songs, and that's probably why you know what, that is my answer, Matty. I'm sorry. That is why I am the way I am today, because I grew up listening to sad songs, and now I like to sing. I just really like sad songs.
But they're beautiful sad songs.
Oh, thank you so much.
RV.
RV, my goodness. Come on, love. Come on. Come here. Come here. You want to meet? This is my big tough dog. There. You know, she's telling them.
There you go. Get some video time. So early on, you had a mentor that was big in your life, Johnny Be Good Johnson.
Yeah.
Um, how has he influenced you in your music?
Well, the thing that really um, he taught me a lot about what it meant to share a stage with other musicians. Um, I picked up like there are some things that I do on the piano um, that are similar to what he did. But I think for the most part, it was a real um, and the the doing it to do it. I remember one time there was a famous band that hired him. They wanted to hire him to play on their album, and they said, "Well, how much do you want to do this?" And they're like major label, major band. And he said, "Oh, $100 and a box of Cuban cigars."
Wow.
You know, and and then of course his representation got in there, and they're like, "No, no, 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 no." But he just was his humility, and it taught me really early on that some of the most talented people are really some of the kindest and the easiest to be around. And moving on from him and meeting some other heroes of mine, I found that really to be true.
What a great mentor to have.
Oh my gosh, yeah, yeah, yeah. He was wonderful. It was like having another grandfather.
Right on. Jesse, I want you to talk about the pursuance of theater early on and how that helped prepare you for being a performing singer.
Well, so yeah, I studied theater from all through high school and then through college, and then I quit and went to music. Um, but the theater training was great for me because I really I'm I've always been pretty shy, one on one, and so the theater training helped me. Like, there's something that comes over me on stage where all of that self consciousness really disappears, and it taught me how to have a relationship with the audience. And you kind of, I mean, I think anybody who's performing it would benefit from from theatrical training. You know, um, you just kind of teaches you to just show up and be there and trust that you're enough, because
Absolutely.
people want to see you breathe. They always said that people want to see you breathe.
It's important.
Yeah, like we would do these exercises where you just go out on the stage in front of the class and you just stand there, and it's actually kind of hard. People would get emotional, and of course it's a bunch of actors and actresses, and so of course they were getting emotional, right? But
Right.
oh, my dog when I was 5, but yeah, the theater training just helped with being able to calm down and just be there, even if things aren't going perfectly well. Or um, I think it's helped me with those moments where, like, I've borrowed like another person's keyboard before, and they have all these bells and whistles, and I'm like, oh my god, I just want the piano sound, I accidentally hit like the drum demo in the middle of a song. It's just sort of like, well, it's experimental theater.
Right. Right on. You had a performance at the New York City Bitter Theater very early on in your career. Um, what did that do for you as a performer? I mean, as a young performer.
To play at the bitter end.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was just excuse me, sweetheart, go watch the movie, my love.
The RV. Hey, the RV lifestyle.
It's our new lifestyle, man. Anyway.
So playing at the Bitter Theater,
Oh my gosh.
the Bitter End,
Yeah,
a
Maddie,
big
oh my gosh.
opportunity for you.
Well, it really was. So I went there to go see. Gosh, I can't remember who the band was, but I believe Joey DeGraw, who is Gavin DeGraw's brother, was playing, and I'm looking on the stage and I'm like, gosh, this guy looks so familiar. Like, do I know him? Do I know him? And I turned to my right, and there's Gavin standing there watching his brother. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, all right, of course, yes, yes, yes. And I met Gavin a few years before, like right when his big album Chariot was about to come out, and I remember like he knew he was going to explode. Like he'd call me and he'd go, "This is Gavin DeGraw," like normally you would just say, "Hey, it's Gavin. Hey, it's Jesse." It's like full name, like
Right.
his stamp on the conversation. But anyway, so I went up to him and I said, "Hey, Gavin, oh my gosh, congratulations and all." And my best friend has always been like selling me. Like has always been pushing me. And she goes, "Well, Jessie she's been writing music and she really wants to perform." And he goes, "Really?" And he takes me by the hand and he goes and he puts my hand in Ken Gorka, he's no longer with us, but he was a force. He was really the force behind the Bitter End for several years. Puts my hand in Ken's hand, and he goes, "She needs a gig here." And so that's kind of how I ended up playing the Bitter End. And I was so nervous about that first. It was my first like full band gig. My family came in, and it was life changing. It was so thrilling, and I mean, just I could never go back from that. After doing that, I knew that I wanted to do it, and there's still the recording from that is still around, and it really did have a magic to it because you could just hear how I can hear and feel again how earnest I was, and
It's a performance I couldn't find, so hopefully I'll be able to dig that up sometime and check it out. I couldn't find it anywhere.
It hasn't been released. I don't know if the Bitter. I mean, come to think of it,
They have a lot of performances out.
they do. I guess
Yeah.
I would just have to get their permission to do that.
I dug deep and I couldn't find it.
Oh man,
I dig deep.
What are
Right
you, a
now,
Virgo or something?
Huh?
Are you a Virgo?
I'm an Aquarius.
Oh, my husband's an Aquarius.
Right on, Hefty. Two album releases under your belt so far, and your most recent Fortunes,
Yeah.
a 7-track release. How is that release doing for you?
I've heard that it's some people are calling it like critically acclaimed, and that's like that's good. I mean, look, I didn't know. I really didn't know what was going to happen because I kind of just made something that I really liked, and it's a vulnerable place to be in, to do something like that. I guess it could have. I mean, look, I'm not like nominated for any huge awards or anything like that, but I feel happy. Anybody who's loved it, I'm grateful that they loved it, and that's really all I could ask for. I knew I wasn't making something that was going to be like a huge top 40 radio hit album. I just kind of wanted to make songs that felt right to me.
As long as you're happy, that's what matters.
Thank you.
As long as you're happy, that's what matters. And I will tell you, I've listened to that release over and over again. and it's absolutely beautiful.
Well,
Every song, and we're gonna talk about a few of those, but I want you to dig deeper into this conversation about the inspiration that brought the release to life. Where did the inspiration come from?
Well, the oldest track on the album is "You with the Sullen Eyes," and it's the duet that I did with John Hawkes.
Oh boy, that's my favorite.
Oh, good.
And is that John Hawk from Deadwood?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. That song did have a kind of a magic to it. Really, I feel like I had, I mean, I don't know. This sounds kind of out there, but I feel like I had some spiritual help working on it. I wrote it in a lodge that feels very, to me, full of spirits. And I was asking it was this huge room on this like really super old piano from like the 1800s, and I'm saying out loud, like, what do you want? What story can I tell? What's the story? And there are pictures there of like the I think 7 sisters that lived in this lodge, and they're all over the place. And so in my mind, that song was like maybe the love story of one of the daughters or something like that. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but that really got me into the throes of writing it. But yeah, so that's the oldest song, and then that set the tone for the whole album.
How did you name the album? How did you come up with Fortunes?
Well, I'm just gonna go outside. Let's see. I was walking around. So Ryan Hewitt, he's out of Nashville. He's a wonderful mixing engineer, and he mixed the album. And we were mixing the last song, and I was racking my brain. I think I was going to name it Year of the Dog, but then they kind of like the people that were in the room, I think it was like his assistant, Sean, and a couple of other people, they were like, nah, you can't name it that. I guess there's like another album called Year of the Dog or something like that. So I'm like, oh my God, like that was the name. Like that was the only name that I'd thought of, and once I realized there was another project that was like too similar, I'm going, oh no, okay. So I took a walk and I'm like looking at the signs on the street, thinking that I'm going to have some kind of moment that a year from then, like in an interview like this, I would be able to say, oh yeah, I was walking down the street and I saw this sign and like that. Nope, nothing. But then all of a sudden I just got this vision of a tarot card, and I go, huh, well there's a song there called Fortunes, and maybe I could just do four. And as soon as I settled on Fortunes, I had like the album artwork was in my head, and it just kind of all unfolded. It all really came in a flash, but it was really because the assistant Sean Williamson that works with Ryan told me that it was a dumb idea to name it. Yeah.
Wow, great story.
Oh,
it's always a story to be told on a MattyRocks interview, and that's a great nugget right there.
Oh, thanks.
Absolutely. But you had some special guests, and you already named one of them in John Hawkes, but the other was Joel Taylor. Both duets, both very beautiful songs. Talk about what their contributions meant to this release for you. Well, and how did you get them? And how did you get them to work with you on that?
John is actually, he kind of runs around in my extended friend group in Los Angeles. I hadn't really met him. If I had met him, it was briefly, and it wasn't any in any way that would make me feel comfortable about walking up to him. But my best friend, she knew him better than I did, and she went up and said, "Hey, my my best friend wrote this song, and we think your voice would sound really good on it. What do you think?" Because I mean, I did. I wrote it really with him in mind because I'd seen him in that movie. It's like Mary Marcy. He did a movie. It's like Mary Marcy.
Yeah,
I can't remember, but he played a cult leader, and he sings a song and plays the guitar, and I'm going, oh my God, this booming voice. So she asked him, and people tend to not say no to her, so she asked him, he said yes, and then he and I really hit it off. I think we're kind of similar, only he doesn't have like a phone or anything. He has no social media. He just really reads a lot. He reads and does some singing, and he acts, and that's like. So I felt really lucky to have him on board. He was a really hard worker, but not in front of me. He did the work before he came, and then just showed up and killed it in 2 takes. There was no struggling, there was no hemming and hawing. It was like, as soon as I gave him the words, he like had his glasses on. What did you mean by this? And he makes his notes, and then the next time I saw him, he was in the studio and just did it like a pro, because he is, and it was very inspiring to me. I mean, I'll never show up for a session. If somebody asks me to do something for them, I show up as prepared as I can possibly be, because I'll never forget that. It's like, once you know better, you do better.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
And Joel, who sang on Sentimental, he's very similar. Joel is like a much better musician than I probably will ever be. He just has that technical ability, and it's like breathing for him. So he came, and I barely had to give him any notes at all. He just like he knew what harmony needed to be there, and it was just like, those two were the easiest, and they were supposed to be for a duet album. I had a duet project called Belle and the Claytons that I was trying to get off the ground, and those two were like, they were the ones that got their songs done the quickest. And yeah, Joel's also a really good cook.
Like you.
Oh yeah.
We'll talk about your cooking later.
Okay.
Well, 2 very great additions to your album, and again, congratulations on that release. It's just absolutely beautiful. So
thank you so
it's
much.
definitely going to be in my playlist for a very long time to come. And I'm
That
going
means a
I
lot to me.
would love to get it in rotation for you on some of the internet stations that I work with around the world, including Australia. So if you want to be heard in Australia, we can get you down there. So
That would be amazing.
I would love to do that for you guys.
Well, hey, Joel's from Australia.
Okay. Well, there you go. That just sealed that deal.
I know people.
Right on.
I know.
Of my people contact your people.
You sure?
Jesse, where do the ideas and inspirations come from that create your beautiful music?
It really depends. I mean, I do write a lot of love songs. I'm kind of trying to move away from that. But like I said before, I was raised on divorce songs, and so it's kind of like what I gravitate toward. But yeah, I guess like, heartbreak and pain. although I do
The great life experiences.
Yeah. Um,
We've all had those.
I wrote a really happy song recently that I'm going to be working on with a really great musical artist named Wayne McFarlane, and it's going to be like a reggae song. So, uh, yeah, that's gonna be different. And I'd like to write more happy songs. I think it's time. I think that's where we are.
Right.
And if I'm going to be appropriate to this historical timeline, I need to write some songs that people can like, dance to. Or we're in the Roaring 20s.
Right on. Does your early does your early love for poetry does that help with the creative writing process for your music? Does some poetry go into your songs?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And actually, I've been thinking recently about going back and looking at some of the things that I wrote that that maybe at the time I didn't hear music to. Um, but I think I have a lot of songs that just have not been fleshed out yet. Um, but I'm constantly, that's kind of just, I think in like poetry, sort of, some people, there was this one girl who said that I speak in acceptaphors. So they're not quite metaphors, but I'll be like, well, it's kind of like this, except. So she called them acceptaphors.
Right.
They're just bad metaphors.
Something you brought up earlier, and I want to touch on it again because I want you to expand on it a little bit more. But your father taught you something very special in the importance of words in songs.
Mm-hmm.
How has that influenced your songwriting today?
I think I would rather make somebody think. I try my best to avoid cliches in my writing if I can. And if I do put a cliche in, I think of it as I need to buy it. I have to earn it with better lyrics. Everything else has to be really good if I'm going to put even one cliche in there. Good, good as far as I'm concerned, right? And I was just talking to my brother the other day that I kind of miss the days when we were encouraged to try to figure things out, and where maybe things that aren't completely obvious were prized. I mean, it was considered a good thing to be an intellectual, or it was considered a good thing to try to find the meaning in something, but it maybe doesn't need to be like served on a platter,
Right.
So I mean, it means a lot to me. Like to this day, if my dad hears a lyric of mine, and he'll sometimes go, "Oh, that was a great lyric," then I like never forget it, right? Like that makes my day. Anybody could say anything, or I could have an article or this and that, but if dad says it's a good lyric,
It's good.
it's good. Yeah.
Right. Jesse, what's coming up for you musically?
Well, I'm supposed to play 2 festivals in Key West back to back. I'm hoping it happens, but that's like right around the corner, really, at the end of April and beginning of May. So I'm hoping that it happens. The other thing, like I said, I'm going to be tracking that the reggae song, and I'm going to start tracking my new album. And I'm also doing a version of Molly Malone, the old Irish song.
Mm-hmm.
So my friend asked me to do that for her movie. So she's a filmmaker, and so I'm doing a version of that. I'm going to track that on this Tuesday. So maybe I'll put that out. I would love to do an album of standards, but maybe not the ones that everybody does. Like maybe not Summertime, you know.
Some different
Maybe
ones.
yeah.
Well, you could
Yeah.
definitely do it.
Oh, well, thanks. It was fun to sing the Christmas song.
Yeah.
This year's and last year's, I really enjoyed doing those. I'll probably stick to just doing one of those a year, and then maybe I'll put them together in a collection, or you know, make
A
something
future
special.
release. A future release of Christmas.
Yeah.
There you go. You talked about the new release that you're going to start working on. What can fans expect from that new release? Can you give us a little insight of maybe a behind the scenes of some of the things you're thinking of, or is that still kind of quiet?
I think they'll be kind of. I think they'll be like spring songs, and there will be some. I'll do strings again, but I don't think it's not going to be so wintry. Like I think Fortunes was very. I don't know. Felt like eating a meal at Hogwarts Castle or something. This I'm hoping will feel more like beachy, even if it's like a rainy beach, you know.
Well, we look forward to that release.
Thank you.
Jesse, I want you to talk about some of the musicians who have backed you in either, in the studio or on stage. Someone who you really want to give some props to as a musician that, really doesn't get the recognition that they deserve. Who would that be, and what do they bring to the music for you?
Well, okay. I have to say that I get so thrilled when anybody plays on my stuff and it sounds good, and I'll get startled by it. It always surprises me. I'm oh my god. I just feel so grateful. So it's hard to play favorites, but I really love the pedal steel, and I've had two great pedal steel players. One of them was Brian Whalen. He played on my EP, and but my first and really the one that's like the closest to my heart is a guy named Paul Lefebvre, and he kind of actually you guys kind of look like each other a little bit, and he's a chef first. He lives in New York City, and my drummer, before I had Paul, my drummer, a really wonderful drummer named Taylor Floreth, he was going, you need pedal steel, and I'm like, these aren't country songs. Like, what do you mean I need pedal steel? I didn't really understand what he meant. And then sure enough, we bring Paul in, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like the pedal steel can be so many different things. It can be country, but it can also just be this whole like it's like a heart. I mean, it's like I think it's a really emotional instrument, and it can be so many different things. So I'm gonna say Chef Paul.
Right on. All right. Jesse, you are a wife and a mother. How have you been able to do the music lifestyle, the home lifestyle, and make it all work and balance it all out?
Well, Matty, sometimes you just have to leave the RV. Sometimes you just have to go sit on a picnic table.
That was good.
It's kind of chilly out here. No, you just give up sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I am lucky to have the support that I have from my husband, because I haven't had to really fight for my freedom with music. Sometimes it's difficult. Like right now, I mean, I don't even know what they're doing in there, but
So quiet.
It's not quiet. It's not
Oh,
quiet. I don't know what's going on. Um, but uh, like from the beginning, Hemke has just, um, mommy's working. You know, he's never made me feel bad for doing this. And in fact, like there were a couple times when I would get really frustrated and like, I don't even know if I should be doing this. He goes, uh, or I think I said something to him like, well, how are you going to feel about me if I put this out and nobody likes it? And he said, I will, nothing, like nothing could ever change how I feel about you except for you giving up on your dreams. And it's
wow.
like, okay, all right. Like I mean, right now, he's filming right now. And that's why, like, so, you know, trying to navigate this little moment here. Normally, like, if we're in a house, it's easier. But, I mean, it's just like these little things. But this is just kind of like the life stuff. It's just
Right.
life. And it's life during COVID. And it would be so great to have a babysitter.
Right. Hey, you know what? We're not all perfect, and some of our plates are gonna fall. You know, I'm living proof of that with three. So
Oh, you have three.
I have three kids. I have my oldest daughter is 14, and I have a set of twins at no 15 now. Oh, she'd kill me if she's watching. Oh, I hope she's not watching. 15, and then my twins are 13.
Oh, wow.
Well,
Twins.
I have twins. Yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So yes, I know all about that balancing lifestyle. You know, with all this stuff that I'm doing, and you
Well,
know,
yeah, and your three are all close in age too, so
yeah,
that's, yeah.
yep. So we survive.
Yeah.
Jesse, what will be the key ingredient? One key ingredient that will keep you writing and releasing more beautiful music for many more years to come.
Um, I really just want to I just want to be as good at it as I possibly can. Um, Good at the writing. Singing I think I've gotten better at singing. But for a long time, I didn't think that was my, my number one thing. I didn't think that was like the best thing. Um, I really would just like to be a great writer and, and as honest a performer as I possibly can, because I want to connect. I want that connection, with people, and, yeah, I think
Okay.
that's probably it. I want to
I
be
want,
as good a writer as Robert Earl Keen.
there you go. There you go. I want you to reflect back through your entire music career so far. What would you say has been your biggest musical accomplishment to date?
Definitely producing. Well, I shared some production credit, but I produced a lot of this album, and that was a really big deal. Um, part of the reason why it was slow going to try to get some stuff out is I kept thinking that I had to hand over the reins completely to a producer, and I tried that a couple times, and I didn't like it, and I thought there was something wrong with maybe the material, and, then I realized that maybe I just like don't want an electric guitar solo. You know, like
Right.
I want to have some kind of creative control, and I want it to sound different. I don't want it to be something. I don't want to work with some producer that will hear my music and say, "Oh, well, I know what to do with this." Like, "Oh yeah, I did this on so and so's album. Like, I know exactly what to do with this." Um, so it was empowering to be able to come from my own honest perspective. Um, so if I ever do work with, I'm hoping that I do get to work with like some amazing producer that will look at it with fresh eyes. Hopefully that happens, but
Sure.
This was definitely a big deal for me to put this out.
Good for
Yeah.
you. I wanna mention this before I forget it, but how cool was the Debbie Gibson call out?
I was dying.
I mean, that actually that was amazing. That was awesome.
I was dying. My my brother couldn't even wait. You know, it was supposed to be a Christmas present, and my brother Travis is so generous and so thoughtful. Like, he's always the best gift giver. Like, it's almost annoying because he's such a perfect gift giver. I'm like, oh my god, you know, why didn't I think of that? But he was searching through Cameo and found her, and she was, I think my probably my first hero was Pat Benatar. I wanted to be Pat Benatar. But then when Debbie Gibson came out, I was a little bit older, and I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world, that she was this young girl who was writing, producing, and performing her own stuff. I mean, that was just mind-blowing. And playing the piano, because, you know, for some reason I play the piano, right? Like, I could have played the guitar. Why I play the piano? And so to see that, it was like she was my idol, and I would make up songs when I was a kid, sing songs to her, in my bedroom. But yeah, so when Travis found her, he knew that it was going to be a big deal, and he couldn't even wait. When she sent that video back, like, he's like, I can't wait till Christmas. He's like, I'm sending you something, you need to watch it right now. I screamed when she started playing Lost in Your Eyes. I screamed. I'm like,
That brought back a whole lot of memories for me just hearing her sing that song. I was like, wow.
I know. And then we got an Electric Youth performance as well. She's just such a killer person. I mean, I thought that what she did there was so generous, and that goes back to what I was saying about, like, oh, hi, Hemke just got home. I had to leave because the kids are being crazy. So yeah, I mean, that some of the really most talented people are just nice.
Right on. Jesse, what do you want the world to know about you and your music that maybe they don't know? What do you want them to know?
I'm doing my best. Just trying to make stuff that's honest, and stuff that I like. I just want it to be like as honest as it can possibly be, and not try to write stuff. I don't know. I'm just trying to keep the avenue from between my heart and what I'm tracking clear, and that's it. I don't know.
Keep doing that. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
Where can we direct people who want to find out more about you and the beautiful music that you put out?
Well, on my website has all, you know, any kind of news or anything like that. So, www.jesselynnmadera.com.
All right. You guys, everyone go check her out because she is amazing. We have one more topic to talk about, and that's the RV lifestyle.
Oh my God.
All right.
Well, so, I mean, this is a cool RV park. Like, we tend to stop in KOAs, but we're in, I'm not, is it okay if I don't say the name of
Don't
where
say
we
the
are?
name. No, I
I
don't
feel
want
like
you
I'm not
to.
supposed to do that.
No.
Yeah. But right now we are loving it, and Hemke. So Hemke lives in this. Here, I'll show you. So there it is,
Very nice.
and he's here. He's going to be living in it until about March, and then if I get to go and play in Key West, we'll drive it down to Key West, and it's neat, you know. I mean, the sides come out, and it's every single time it's like astonishing, you know,
Yeah.
because you're driving and it's like, you know, you're all cramped in, and then you get to where you are, and he's the captain. Hemke's the captain of the RV, so he gets out and he's like, "We're here," and he's like, "Hi, man." Like I go, and he goes out and he plugs the stuff in, and you know, gets our sewer hooked up and everything, and then he comes in and he presses this button, and the sides come out, and we're home again.
Right.
It's kind of like, you know, when you go into a Cracker Barrel, any Cracker Barrel you go, it's always the same, and you're
Yep.
like, oh my God, you could be driving all night and you're like, wasn't it just here? But yeah, see, there's an acceptor for.
So what inspired the purchase of the RV? I mean, of all the traveling ways you can travel, you guys got an RV. So what was the inspiration behind it?
COVID.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, we actually looked at a trailer a few years ago, because we thought we might like to do some stuff like, you know, some traveling around, and for some reason we didn't do it, and I'm glad we didn't, because with the RV you can, you know, you just pull over and make yourself a cup of coffee, and if the kids have to go to the bathroom, you know, you're home everywhere. If you pull over to the side of the road, you're still home, you know.
Right.
Oh, still home.
When you bring up RV parks, what are some absolute musts for you guys as far as some of the campgrounds or sites that you pull into? What are some of those musts that you really look for?
Well, I mean, the electrical hookup and the gray and black water. We I mean, it's nice to be able to dump the stuff you don't want. Um, Other than that, I guess I don't know.
Quiet,
Huh?
quietness.
Yeah, I guess so. We've only ever stayed more than. I think this is the first place we've stayed more than one night. Um, Although no, I'm sorry. There was one, oh my gosh. Can I recommend a place?
Absolutely.
The Valkyrie Ranch in it's in Texas. Where was that, babe? No, but where in Texas? Okay, we don't remember where it was, but it's the Valkyrie Ranch, and it's on a wildlife, uh, um, you know, what do you call it?
Refuge.
Refuge, yeah. Um, and you can actually go and see all the animals, and that was really cool. Um, but I mean, the hookup is the main thing, just to get like a good night's sleep.
Right.
We haven't been doing it long enough to be like picky, or we're not RV elitists yet.
Right.
But I mean, we sure do love this. Where we are right now, we're actually on the water,
That's
which
awesome. I
blows my
can see it in the
mind.
background there.
Yeah, well, like we wake up. Oh my God, it looks so creepy. We wake up and we see water. I mean, that's like, gosh, a hotel room that's on the water. That's like, that would be pretty costly, and you don't get your own coffee necessarily.
Right on.
We've got our own sheets.
Yeah. Save a lot of money. Are there challenges for you guys with distant learning for the kids? Virtual learning
Um,
in the
not
RV?
right, not right. Well, there was one time where it was raining super hard. It was actually during that hurricane that came through New Orleans. We were trying to get out of it, trying to get out before the hurricane was going to hit, because it was supposed to be a lot worse than it ended up being. Um, so we were driving to Houston, and it was stressful. It was a little bit stressful, and it was raining really hard, and he was sitting in the dinette trying to do his work, and like he couldn't hear. He has a tutor, so that was going to be the other part of the question, the other answer to. Sorry, let me start over. Um, the other part of your question, the answer is it's really actually been very wonderful for him. There have only been a couple times when it's been a bit of a pain in the butt, but for the most part, everything has been really great, because he has such a hard time paying attention in class. when he's in a classroom full of kids, he's like, he's looking out the windows, he's looking at what's on the walls, he's looking at like, he's an observant kid. And, you know, I mean, now he's like honor roll student, which was not happening the
Right.
last couple of years. So, I don't know. It's been good. Everything is good now. And then, of course, after we're free to put him back in school, or, you know, after things have calmed down, maybe we will. But I'm hoping that he'll go back into school with a new approach and with like a new confidence and new trust in himself.
Right. That's important. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Favorite activity that you guys all like to do together while RVing?
Well, I really like to cook things that you wouldn't think one would cook in an RV. Like I like to I love to cook, right? So I like to create these kind of ridiculously gourmet menus and run and go for it, you know. And I haven't used the microwave once.
Wow. Good for you. Good for you. So it's not
We
challenging. It's not challenging versus being at home. I mean, you adapt to it.
Well, it's challenging, but it's also I kind of like to be on the move, and I think I kind of like a good challenge in certain areas. Like I remember one time when I was working at this music studio in New York, I was invited to like one of those like a Friendsgiving, and so I said, okay. I was like, all right, we have a microwave in the studio. I'll make sweet potatoes. I'll do the sweet potatoes with like the caramelized whatever. I attempted to caramelize the pecans on the coffee, you know, the coffee hot thing, the burnt warmer that you put your coffee. Yeah, if my old boss is watching right now, that would be crack me up. But we had like I took tin foil and it kind of worked. I mean, it worked. It worked well enough to use them. You know.
Only the things you find out in a MattyRocks interview.
I know.
That's awesome. What does it mean? What does it mean for you guys to all travel together in the RV when you have the opportunity to do it?
Oh, it's just a real, and it's a nice break from the norm without being too uncomfortable. I mean, it really is pretty comfortable. And it rained. It's been raining in New Orleans, and so I'm a rain girl. And like this morning, I woke up to the most glorious sound of rain on like right above me and around me, and it feels like a vacation, but familiar, you know, because it's our own stuff. We've got our pillows and our coffee and our bread. I keep bringing up coffee because that's like my favorite thing about the day.
Well, you guys make it. You guys make it your own, and that's important.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean the kids got fishing rods. They've been going fishing. The toddler thinks he's fishing. He doesn't have a hook, but he thinks he's fishing.
Right.
His rod has this little plastic red fish on the end of it. So every time he pulls it up, he's like, "I caught a fish."
Right,
He keeps catching the same fish.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have our little picnic table here. I mean, what's not to love?
Right. Absolutely. Well, enjoy the rest of your RV life on the road. I mean, it's great that you guys are out and doing that. Jesse, I'm going to give you the same opportunity that I give every artist that I have the opportunity to sit one-on-one with.
Okay.
And that is a message to MattyRocks listeners around the United States and around the world who are going to potentially watch this interview, hear this interview. What would you like to say to them?
Please please hold on to hoping for the best, because a lot of times that works. And sorry, like, Mom, can I play on my iPad? I'm like, I'm trying to get deep here, George. I think we are all much more similar than we know, and there's a lot of stuff that I don't understand right now, or things that people say and do that I don't understand. But like the social media really tends to make things a lot worse.
Drags you down.
It does. It does. And I mean, I have people that I've known my whole life that I would trust in pretty much any circumstance, and they get on and they say things and I'm like, what? That's been really the most heartbreaking thing about this. It's like, yeah, it's not a civil war with guns and things, we're not setting whole towns on fire, thank God, but like, man, we're setting hearts and relationships on fire. It doesn't need to be that way. I don't really know what the solution is, but I do hope that people can try to be as happy as they can possibly be, because it's contagious. One act of kindness it inspires another act of kindness.
Absolutely. Great message.
Thanks.
Jesse, thank you so much for taking the time out of your night for this conversation. It was truly an honor for me to do this with you.
Oh,
and
thank you.
I'm so
Me
glad
too.
that we had the opportunity to do it. And continued success to you in everything that you've got going on in your musical arena going forward.
I really appreciate that.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
You heard it here, MattyRocks listeners. MattyRocks and Jesse Lynn Madera.
Thanks, Matty.
Again, Jesse. And you guys be safe, travel safe. And I hope that we can reconnect somewhere down the road and pick up where we left off and do this again somewhere down the road.
Thank you. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
MattyRocks out.